You're listening to The Main Event with Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn on WIP.
Welcome back, everybody. Time in the WIP studios is 11:17. Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn here with you, taking you up until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour will come your way. It's time to flip the page from the Temple University football talk, and now we'll talk about the professional team here in town, and that's the Eagles. They sit at 1-2 on the season, and they have an NFC East rivalry matchup down in Maryland this Sunday at 1 o'clock at FedEx Field. So let's go out to the phone lines right now and welcome in from Sports Radio 94 WIP, and that's Joe Giglio. Joe, Zach, and Mike here on Temple's campus. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be with you guys.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes today. Eagles have had some injury news. Gardner's going to be out for the year, and so is Parkey. In comes Caleb Sturgis. He was a free agent kicker, and Matt Tobin is going to be moving up to that right guard spot. Tell me what you know about Caleb Sturgis and Matt Tobin, Joe.
Well, I know with Sturgis, he wasn't a very good kicker in his short time, kicking in the NFL as a starting kicker. That's part of the reason he was on the street. But kickers could be up and down. They could look bad somewhere, then latch on somewhere else and do well. The bottom line is Parkey, I think, was hurt the entire time. They downplayed it. He said he re-hurt himself. He just didn't look right to me really since last December. You saw it in the preseason. So I think at some point here, even if he didn't tell them he was hurt, they were probably going to have to consider a change, bring other guys in. So this could actually be an upgrade just because Parkey wasn't himself at this point. And then Matt Tobin, we saw him a little bit last year. We saw him in training camp. I think they wanted him to do maybe a little bit better, maybe push Gardner a little bit more in training camp for that right guard spot. He didn't do it. He's up now. I thought Gardner was better on Sunday against the Jets than he was the first 2 weeks, but I don't think the Eagles just lost an all-pro from Andrew Gardner going down to Matt Tobin. So I think they can survive that.
You're right, because we get a lot of people, and the people that I interact with on Twitter and through the show, that say, oh, it's good that Gardner's done for the year just because he was so bad. And that Eagles offensive line, you have to give him credit. The first two games, they weren't good, but then that game up against the Jets, which is a very tough and physical defensive front, they did look better. However, the one thing that I'll look at and say about that guard spot is I'm still wondering why Chip Kelly never drafted a guard in the last 2 years. I still just can't wrap my head around that because they're not deep at that position.
They aren't, and it's showing now. And the thing I always say about depth, guys, it's only good until you have to use it. And now the depth is gone. You had a lot of depth last year, and they were able to withstand injuries to Kelsey, the suspension to Lane Johnson, and an injury to Mathis as well. But once you cut Mathis, you don't draft anyone. You go from Gardner that he's hurt now, and now you're really going down the line of what your depth was. And I totally agree. The last 2 years, they're the only team in the NFL to not draft an offensive lineman. And that's what upset me the most, guys, about when and why they cut Evan Mathis. If they wanted to move on from Mathis, I didn't think he was going to be as good as his salary. They thought he was going to hit a wall because of his age. I'm fine with that, but you have to prepare for it. They didn't prepare for it. At least they didn't prepare themselves for the possibility they might have to do it. And now this is what we're staring at, Matt Tobin, as a starting player on this offensive line.
We're talking to talk show host at Sports Radio 94 WIP, Joe Giglio. And Joe, this Redskins team isn't exactly the most physical. They're not exactly the best team, but they are sitting at 1-2, just like the Eagles. They have a weak offensive line and obviously a banged-up receiving core with Deshaun Jackson going down. Do you expect to see Billy Davis dialing up a couple blitzes to get Cousins uncomfortable early on?
He could, especially on downs where it's clearly a passing down. But I think the key this week with Billy Davis and this defense is to take away the one thing the Redskins do well. The Giants did it last week. They took away the running game. Alfred Morris, Jones, the kid out of Florida, that's a good pair of backs. And Jones really has impressed me for the preseason for the first couple games of the year. The Giants made a concerted effort last Thursday night to take away the run, and then you make Kirk Cousins have to throw, and then you can blitz, and then you can turn him over. I think the Eagles' defense, their strength is stopping the run. I think they're set up to play really well again on Sunday against the Redskins in an offense that just, with Cousins back there, it doesn't inspire much confidence.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. The Eagles are only sitting at 1-2, but they do have a favorable matchup coming up, especially in these next 3 weeks between Washington, New Orleans, and the Giants. Is it realistic that the Eagles could be 4-2 after their first 6 games?
They could be. I think they're going to win the next 2 weeks. I think they're going to beat the Redskins on Sunday, and then I think they'll come home and take care of the Saints, who are just a mess right now. Drew Brees or not, I think it's a really bad football team that's just deteriorated over the years. So I think they're going to get to 3-2. And then I think Monday Night Football, I think the date is October 21st, October 19th, whatever the date is, a couple weeks from now, Monday Night Football in Philadelphia. I think there's a chance with the Bills banged up this week and the Giants heading up there before coming home to face the Niners next week, another team that stinks. I think there's a chance you could have the Giants and Eagles sitting at 3-2 each, playing each other on Monday Night Football in a couple weeks in Philadelphia for first place in the NFC East, which, after 2 weeks of the season, they were both sitting at 0-2. That would have been kind of a crazy thing to say, but it could happen.
Joe, it just seems like, though, that this NFC East, and trust me, I'm not the biggest Chip Kelly fan in the world. I bashed him after the first 2 weeks and still didn't like what I saw from his offense this past Sunday. But it just seems like that you're right. It is going to shape up to be a two-team race in the NFC East, especially with the Cowboys injuries just between the Giants and the Eagles. That Monday night game, it's going to be massive.
It is. It will be. It'll be a swing game to see which maybe of those two teams moved on. I still am not counting the Cowboys out of being in this in December because I just don't think the Giants are that good. They won't separate themselves, and I need to see more. And like you were talking about with Chip Kelly's offense, I need to see the Eagles really put it all together before I think they can separate themselves. So you look at the Cowboys with the running game they have, their defense has been a little better than it was, or I thought it was going to be. Also last year, they've been losing Skandrick, their nickel corner. I think the Cowboys will win enough of these games. Like they should beat the Saints on Sunday, regardless of Breeze plays. I just think the Saints are a bad team. So I think the Cowboys will be lurking probably right behind the Giants and Eagles whenever Romo and Dez, if they do get back and get healthy around Thanksgiving time. And you know what, guys? It seems like the NFC East every year we talk about this and that and the ebbs and flows, yet we go into December every single year, and it's a toss-up.
I can't believe I'm asking this question because the Eagles' big splash in free agency this year was DeMarco Murray, and they're just not using him right. I know that he didn't play Sunday because of that hamstring injury, but he's back in practice this week, although he is limited. However, on Sunday, Murray or Matthews, Chip has called them interchangeable. Who gets the bigger bulk of the carries?
I think it might be Matthews this week. And there was an interesting nugget this week. I feel like it flew under the radar. It was in a column by Jeff McClain in the Inquirer this week, about this same situation you just asked. And he threw the nugget in there that the Eagles haven't made it public, but Murray maybe has been dealing with this hamstring for longer than we thought. We just found out about this a couple weeks ago. I think we all assumed it happened during one of the games or happened in practice, last Thursday. I'm getting the sense maybe that hasn't been the case. Maybe that's why. Remember all those training camp practices that DeMarco Murray mysteriously just wasn't a part of, and the first day he came in and he wasn't practicing, and they said they were limiting his reps, dehydration, and all that kind of stuff that you heard from the Eagles. Maybe Murray's been banged up for a while now, and if that's the case, to me, you have to ride Matthews here and let DeMarco Murray heal, because like you said, he was the big splash in free agency. You don't want this guy going down for the year or going down for 6 or 7 weeks because you want to put him out there to prove something. Let him get healthy.
We're talking to Joe Giglio from Sports Radio 94 WIP, and you can also read him on NJ.com. While we're on the topic of injuries, Kendricks and Thornton, what's their status for Sunday?
Well, I think Thornton, they said he's going to try to practice here. It's a weird injury. When you have hand surgery, they can kind of wrap it up. And defensive lineman, especially in the 3-4, where he's not really a pass rusher, I could see him playing, but Kendricks is the one to me that's more important. Now, I think Thornton's a good player, but I thought Brandon Bear last week did a very, very serviceable job, even more than that, filling in. They didn't really miss Cedric Thornton in that game at all. I thought they would. They did. Bear played well. But Kendricks is the guy they need, especially this week against Redskins. He likes to run the football, and they have a good tight end in Jordan Reed. And I thought last week, and I think they acknowledged it, I heard Chip acknowledge it this week, that DeMarco Ryan played a lot of snaps, way more reps than I think they thought would have to in week 3 off of the Achilles injury. But, you lose Alonso, you lose Kendrick, what are you going to do? And I think they could get away with Jordan Hicks and Michael Kendrick as a very good, very young, very fast pair of linebackers and maybe knock down those reps for Ryans again. I'm worried about DeMarco Ryans if he has to play 70-plus snaps again this season.
From one big offseason splash to another, we talked about DeMarco Murray earlier, and now we're talking about Byron Maxwell. What do we think Byron Maxwell will be for the rest of the season? Will it be week 1 and week 2 Byron Maxwell, or are we going to start to see week 3 against the Jets Byron Maxwell going forward in the season?
I think we're going to see week 3 and moving forward. Look, he wasn't perfect last week. Brandon Marshall did have some catches in front of him. But I thought for the most part, Maxwell played pretty well and kind of what I expected him to be. A physical corner. I think the bigger receivers he'll match up well against. Unless you're playing a Julio Jones, Beckham in a few weeks will be an interesting matchup. I don't think he's going to get himself embarrassed like he did in week 1 and to an extent there at the end of week 2. I think Maxwell will be okay, but, I think that at some point here we're all going to realize, if we haven't already, he's not that guy that the money says he should be. He's not the guy that's going to take the star receiver, the really great ones, the 5 or 6 great ones in the NFL. He's not going to take them out of the game. Julio Jones took him out of the game. Beckham might do it to him in a couple weeks, unless Billy Davis comes up with a really good plan. So if you're expecting him to be a great, great player, we're going to keep getting disappointed here. But I think he'll be a good corner for them the rest of the year.
Wrapping up with Joe Giglio from Sports Radio 94 WIP. The big question is still that quarterback position. I don't have a lot of confidence in Sam Bradford. He does not look like he's very confident on the field, and him and his wide receivers just aren't on the same page. This is a game, though, that we expect the Eagles to go out there and dominate. Could this just boost Bradford's confidence if he goes out there and has a big game this week, Joe?
It could, and it should, and we're all waiting for it. I mean, look, I like Sam Bradford. I liked him a lot coming out of Oklahoma. I thought the trade was a good trade for the Eagles. I've been on board with the idea of Sam Bradford here. But at some point, maybe it's Sunday, maybe it's 5 weeks from now, I just wonder, football fans in general, but now especially here in Philadelphia with Eagles, I just wonder when the excuses for Sam Bradford stop. I mean, the guy's been in the NFL since 2010, and there's always an excuse. The receivers, the line, the coaching, whatever it is. It's always been something. His injuries, which are real, and were real. And now we're making them again. I mean, the offensive line's been an issue for the Eagles. His receivers have dropped passes. Kelly has not called good games, on and on. At some point, though, if he doesn't play well, I think we'll all say he's the common denominator. Hope it doesn't get to that point. I hope he turns it around. But you can kind of foresee that coming if he doesn't figure this out.
Great job out of you. We appreciate a few minutes. Thanks so much.
Anytime, guys. Have a good show.